Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. Welcome to everybody tuning in. We got another amazing broadcast for you all. And we are live on our YouTube. And if you're listening to this on our podcast, something I keep forgetting to do, everybody, is mentioning that we have a podcast because all of our recordings on our YouTube channel that aren't like PowerPoint presentations go on our podcast is Portal to Ascension Radio. So I want to acknowledge because we have a whole audience that's just tunes in over there. And we're always talking about YouTube. So I want to acknowledge everybody on the podcast for checking us out. Thank you so much. And also want to say, please do on the podcast, give us a rating, vote for us, write a comment in there because it really helps out. We're attempting to grow. You know, we started with like 100 listens. Now we have like 700 per podcast. Really want to grow that. And for everybody on YouTube that wants to check out the podcast, so on all major platforms, Portal to Ascension Radio, you can go ahead and check it out there. So today, everybody, I am excited to bring back, once again, Saryon Michael White as our guest for today. And we went live last week. You can check it out there, where we spoke about the congressional hearings and disclosure, what's going on right now in the mainstream. You know, a lot of these truths that were on the fringe coming out into the mainstream, started speaking out from them from a galactic perspective, right? And today, after just a few days ago, was the 2023 congressional hearing. And if you have not had an opportunity to check that out, please do. I would say and recommend going to our YouTube, youtube.com/Portal to Ascension. We have, just like 2 videos ago, the Disclosure House Oversight Hearing on UAPs, and with commentary on there. And I would say from, you know, the people that enter our stuff, go ahead and check it out there. We play the video, and then there's a little commentary after the video as well. And just go and see what has been shared and what is going on in the mainstream right now, because this is huge. What is happening right now is pretty mind-blowing. And so we're bringing Saryon Michael White on today for today's topic, which is a oneness perspective on the 2023 congressional hearings, because this is all playing out. Disclosure is playing out in alignment with the shift in consciousness that's happening on this planet right now. And the shift is creating a world full of transparency. And as we go through that world of transparency, a lot of hidden truths are going to be uncovered. So we're bringing on Saryon to have a discussion about this topic today. And so I'm excited to have you back here, brother. Thank you, man.
Yes, thank you so much. Excited to be here as well after watching the hearings and reviewing quite a lot of the commentary, both before and after. I've continued to follow it pretty much every day to see what's coming out, what people are saying. I'm especially interested in Dr. Greer's commentary about all of this. I think he's, one of the most important voices of discernment about the way this is being covered in the news media. And I think we need to keep tuning into alternative sources, not mainstream news media, to get a more well-rounded perspective and to get the discernment that we need.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So before you continue on here, I just want to mention on that, it's very interesting because a lot of the people that have been doing this work for so long that have kind of been in the alternative world haven't been used as the front people for this disclosure, right?
Right.
We see Lou Elizondo, we see Chris Mellon, see all these new faces that they're presenting. We have Patrick, David Grush, right? And so it was interesting that Greer even got an opportunity to be on a platform to discuss what's going on now. And then there's other people that have been talking about this, the actual whistleblowers in those programs. And I feel that now, hopefully the next level of this, the next level of whistleblowers will be the people in these programs rather than those reporting on the people on there, right?
Right.
All right, so what do you have to share for us today? Go ahead, brother, it's all yours.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about what I would share quite a lot. And I want to start with a few really key points. These feel like the most important points to make about this. And the first is that I really want to affirm to everyone out there listening, just to put in my 2 cents about this, that there is no military threat from extraterrestrials, from ETs. That is not where the real threat lies. The real threat lies in the national security state, the covert black ops, secret projects, and these technology companies that are in bed with the military industrial complex they're woven into it. That's the real threat. The reason why I believe that, know that, and espouse that is not just because I've watched a lot of For example, Dr. Greer stuff, or other people that have been saying that. I myself have experienced a very, very wide range of extraterrestrial contact throughout my life in various ways. And over time, as I've gone through a process of what I would describe as galactic integration, integrating with the fact that we are part of a galactic field of consciousness, a galactic community, that it's a part of us. It extends from every single soul, because we are all really one community of souls across many different worlds. And there's a field that unites us. Birthing into that field, which is something that happened to me when I first started having CE5 contact experiences in my teens. That was not just an experience of having a sighting or getting that, oh wow, we're not alone in the universe. Experiencing, seeing an ET craft and communicating with the beings inside was an experience of the chakras, the body, my connection to the earth, opening up into another level of connectedness that was always there but was dormant. It was like popping a bubble, and suddenly you're connected to a galactic field of consciousness. And I remember one of the things that my friend and I, who had some of these initial contacts with me, heard from these beings. During one of the contacts, we had a visual sighting of a ship. We both were in telepathic contact with the beings inside, and we confirmed each other's messages because we were both hearing the same telepathy, and we were able to confirm what we were both hearing later on. And what they said was that humanity is awakening into a galactic field of consciousness. This is a natural process, and we are here to observe and assist if necessary. This has happened on other worlds before. What you're going through is a natural process. And after receiving those messages, it was very clear that these beings practiced non-interference. They were watching us from a distance. They were aware that people like myself had a role to play in being kind of among the first or the early stages of that process of opening to the galactic spectrum as a way shower. But we're now well into a mass awakening experience where that is starting to happen more and more. Part of how that is going to happen is through contact, and authentic, real contact, not the kind of thing that's happening where military craft masquerading as ET craft are trying to create some kind of a display in the skies, either to scare us or trick us in some way into thinking there's a national security threat. But there are moments of opening. It's like a window that opens from the bubble of denial that humanity has been collectively living in to that wider reality. And these little windows open. And when those windows open and a reconnection process takes place for, most of the time in the past, it was for individuals, very small groups of people. Eventually, it's going to happen for larger and larger groups of people. These windows open, and it may involve some form of connection, not unlike what my friend and I experienced when we were in our teens. But I'm going to get to the point here that after experiencing all of these different forms of contact over the years, a revelation landed that very clearly communicated that there is a system of galactic law in place, and that the Earth, even though we don't know it yet, is governed by or exists within the territory, which is a very wide territory in this part of the galaxy, where these galactic laws protect emerging civilizations like ours, because they establish rules of engagement, and they basically say that no civilization that is a spacefaring civilization they can't take weapons into space. They can't threaten other civilizations. They cannot militarily invade. They cannot threaten the sovereignty of another living world, and those laws protect us. Now, what some civilizations can do is to try to skirt around that a little bit by enticing an emerging world into a trade relationship, influencing them to want ET technology. And there is some of that happening, and it is a challenge. But setting aside that topic, because I do talk about that in other presentations, I want to stick with the fact that anything you hear from, whether it's coming from government officials, military, in any of these hearings that keep suggesting or reinforcing that there is a national security threat, that we need to arm ourselves, we need to put weapons in space, we need to worry about this, anytime that they talk about things that seem like it's evidence or proof that there is some type of a physical threat to our lives, to our security from the galactic community, just remember what I'm saying here, that there are galactic laws in place that protect emerging worlds like ours from any kind of a military threat from another civilization. So we have nothing to fear, we have nothing to worry about, and we have every reason to be discerning about some of the kinds of things that we actually did start hearing in this congressional hearing. Now, in the last video that I made, I said that this is going to be really interesting. We are going to see various agendas on display starting to unpack themselves and to be rolled out. You're going to see the agendas of truth and light and accountability. And you're also going to see agendas of corruption and secrecy and distortion and greed. And we did see a mix of both. There was one particular congressperson, I didn't remember who this one was. I took notes through a lot of this of who was saying what and what stood out to me. This one, I didn't note who it was that said this, but there was one that instead of asking thoughtful questions, he kind of used his time to rather make a statement of what he already believed, which was that this is a national security threat, that these beings are testing our weaknesses, looking for vulnerabilities. I mean, it really made it sound like an Independence Day kind of thing. And that was disheartening to see that. I don't think it took away too much from the fact that there was a real inquiry into the truth, and there were a lot of good questions asked, and there was progress being made. The fact that this is coming out in the open puts the whole subject and our whole future regarding contact and our awakening and all of that in this really interesting place, because again, we are going to start seeing both of these agendas for truth and accountability and our awakening pitted against the distortion, the secrecy, the fear agenda being put forth. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. It's going to be very, very interesting in that regard. So there's galactic laws protecting us. We have to be very wary of the national security agenda or the fear agenda. And I also want to say that in terms of our awakening, disclosure plays a huge role. It's not, as I said in the last video, in terms of like official disclosure, the main driving force of the mass awakening, the collective awakening to the fact that we're not alone, because that is happening with or without disclosure. Disclosure, in some cases, is being used to thwart that natural awakening, at least, in some of the forms of it that we may see, and that is already starting to play out in the mass media. I know if you look in some of the news coverage on major news networks, some of the first things that you saw, like on CNN, I think the first article I saw, which was tiny little article down at the bottom, they did not give this much coverage really. But the first thing I saw was an article that focused in on the idea that UFOs are a national security threat. So out of all the Congress people asking all of the really good, very legitimate questions, the person that they picked to focus their first article around launching this was the guy who said this is a national security threat. So I thought that was very revealing. I'm going to talk about two different timelines. These are two timelines for humanity. One I've called the ascension timeline. And on the ascension timeline, I have experienced communications coming from our future selves from thousands of years in the future, after we have evolved into a race of beings that is most akin to the Arcturians, beings of pure love and light, a spacefaring race, fully ascended masters as a race of galactic beings. I've connected with our future selves along that timeline, and they have spoken about the shift that we are going through now and the awakening into the galactic spectrum, which is a huge part of it. And they've shared some details about what that shift is going to look like. There's another timeline. I mean, we could say that there are several different probable timelines and probable worlds, but for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to talk about two: the ascension timeline and the timeline of our destruction. There's probably variations of both, but if we just make this really simple and say that there are two timelines, one path of ascension, one that's a path of destruction, currently, right now, those two timelines and the probable worlds that they connect with are overlapping, and they will continue to overlap, perhaps for decades. We are in a very unique, very powerful window and deciding point, or a crossroads, if you will. And these two timelines and probable worlds create a contrast that is also providing a very powerful test of discernment. It's testing us to become the civilization that we have the potential to become on the highest version of our awakening and the highest potential for our conscious evolution. And we need both. We need both of those to create the contrast, to create the test and the challenge, so that we can become the awake, alert, knowledgeable, discerning galactic citizens that will eventually be able to be messengers to other emerging worlds and help them to overcome some of the same kinds of difficulties that we are overcoming now. Because a lot of the lessons that we have chosen as a humanity were chosen because of how that is going to position us to help some of the specific worlds that it is our destiny to help thousands of years from now, when we become like the Arcturians and we're zipping around and answering the call to show up as midwives to other emerging worlds, which I've seen that very clearly in the Akashic records of the future on that timeline. So I'm going to talk about what disclosure specifically looks like on these two timelines, the timeline of ascension and the timeline of destruction. On the timeline of ascension, where we succeed in our awakening, in achieving a lasting peace in this world, of ending secrecy, of opening the doorway to the stars within ourselves and collectively, and dispelling the illusion and overcoming the challenge of the secrecy around this. On that timeline, we are still going to have to deal with the secrecy and fight against it in various ways. But let's consider some possibilities of what that really looks like. What that looks like on the ascension timeline, where we succeed, is that, yes, we have to fight against official secrecy of this subject. We have to stand for accountability and not back down. We must be uncompromising in the halls of government, in the way that we support our politicians to do the right thing, to align with the rise in accountability that wants to take place inside of our civilization as a whole. But we also each have to look at how we can be more courageous, how we can rise in accountability within ourselves to be more accountable for what we are creating in our personal lives. If you choose a path of rising in your accountability in your personal life, that is going to support the overall effort to raise the accountability in government, in science, in religion, in all corners of society. So yes, we have to fight against official secrecy in the halls of government and in the media. And we also have to fight the denial of oneness within ourselves. There's a denial of oneness that these secret government programs are organized around. These are not operating in oneness. Well, how do you root out organizations that are not based in oneness, that are covert, that are protected by layer upon layer of secrecy, lies, fear, and even advanced technology? How do you fight against something like that? You fight the denial of oneness within yourself. And so what I'm saying is that in addition to being very vigilant against the agendas of fear that are being rolled out, we also have to be very focused on the awakening of a spirit of wholeness, oneness, kindness, and compassion. Because the way we get through this, the way we root out not just covert secret government programs, unconstitutional programs that are hoarding advanced technologies, stealing money to develop these technologies for their own interests. The way we root that out is the way that we root out all organizations and all secret pacts that have been made that are organized around a denial of oneness. We focus on being there for each other, being one, allowing the oneness to awaken within us, to guide us and direct us to show up for each other compassionately, to be the change that we want to see in the world, to answer a higher calling. And so that is the nonlinear aspect of how we defeat this challenge. There's a direct approach and there's an indirect approach. And the indirect approach is not really even about the subject of ETs. The indirect approach is that we have to show up for each other and support each other's human needs and support each other to thrive and to become responsive to those in dire situations and in dire need, and to become the most responsive, empathic, loving, kind, compassionate, supportive collective of humanitarian caregivers that we can imagine to become. And I say that because I was shown a vision of what the very end of the secrecy might look like on the ascension timeline. And this was probably one of the most inspiring visions I think I've had. And I don't even know if I've ever even shared this publicly, but I'm going to share it now. In this particular vision, I saw a oneness movement in the world, and the movement for disclosure, the movement for ending secrecy had reached a point that there was a swelling of compassion and oneness in the world and in so many people that we had cultivated a sacred power to extend oneness as a field from our hearts. And I saw what looked like a kind of a protest in a way. I don't know if this was a symbolic vision or if I was seeing an actual event, but it looked like a protest that was taking place outside of a military base, and all of these people had gathered, and you could feel the unity in their hearts, and they were calling for the people on this particular base, which was determined to be one of the places that was protecting access to, one of the deep underground military bases, and where a lot of the power structure and even perhaps the leadership of the secret government was located. And we are extending this love and this call to oneness for these people to drop the agenda and to come out and join this emerging humanity of oneness. And I saw people, military people that were walking away from their posts, that were joining the protests. I saw mass resignations taking place of people walking away from programs that were determined to be connected to or a part of the secret government. And at a certain point, I saw what looked like a last-ditch effort on the part of the control that was in the media and the secret government to try to convince people that there was a war of the worlds happening and we must arm ourselves. And what I saw was what Dr. Greer calls an alien reproduction vehicle, a UFO, or what looks like an alien ship that was man-made, and it was flown out in the sky somewhere in the proximity of these protests as a demonstration. And as it comes out, some type of weapon system engages from up in space and shoots this thing and destroys it. And then there's reports on the media, in the media saying that the military has downed yet another alien craft in protecting humanity from this alien threat. And yet people weren't buying it. People knew that that was a lie, that it was a demonstration to try to get people to re-engage with fear about the extraterrestrial presence and to keep giving their power over to this secret military structure. And people weren't buying it. They were not dissuaded. And the field of oneness continued to expand, and more people continue to walk away from the old paradigm in various ways. And I watched as the mass media were continuing to lie, news anchors were continuing to lie about what was really happening, right up until the very end, until finally even the people whose jobs were on the line in the media threw up their hands and said, I'm not having any part of this anymore. And they also walked away from it. And at that point, it felt like peace was raining from the stars. And people's hearts opened and they connected with the galactic community in a way that we've been waiting to have this experience, to have a mutual acknowledgement of oneness with our galactic neighbors that affirms the truth of our oneness, of universal oneness. And the very, very few people that were left in the leadership of these secret programs were basically caught with their pants down because everybody had walked away, and there were very few of them left attempting to hold on to the reins of power, and they had nowhere to go, and there was nobody there to take their orders. That's what I saw in this vision. And I believe that that's possible. So it moves me emotionally when I think about what I saw and the courage of us living that, because we're the ones that have come here to live that. We have come here to be those people in whatever way it actually looks like on the ground. It doesn't matter whether that vision was symbolic or contained specific details of how it might actually play out. That's beside the point. The point is that oneness wins. And the oneness was able to win because of something I've shared many times before. It was a teaching that has come through the angelic presence and from the Arcturians about the code of oneness, which is the 1-1 vibration. The 1-1 vibration is a vibration of perfect equality of being. When we are in a 1-1 vibration, it is a consciousness that says, I am one and you are one, and we are both equally one with each other and equally one with the whole. equally one with the heart of humanity, if you will. And it also is a code of consciousness that when you are in a field of equality and oneness that holds that we are all spiritual equals, which is what keys us into the consciousness of wholeness, then you are willing to follow callings in a nonlinear way and to add the power of your one or of the one within you to anybody else, to spiritually back them in a way that amplifies their manifestation energy, trusting that as you are following your calling to back whoever you are there to back in any particular moment, that there's always going to be somebody showing up to back you as well. It is a non-linear path of manifestation. It's the difference between a civilization of beings where everyone is just trying to manifest their dreams and their goals on their own as loners, and a civilization where it becomes the passion of every single participant to show up for somebody else's dreams and to add the power of the one inside of you behind somebody else and something that they are being guided to put forward to advance human manifestation of God's dream for our lives, and or of our divine blueprint, however you look at it. And so you trust in the nonlinear nature of manifestation. You trust in the nonlinear nature of how help shows up in people's lives, because you become a part of a nonlinear way in which the angelic presence is always acting as the invisible community organizers of the universe. So it's very powerful when a civilization discovers the 1-1 vibration, because it is catalytic, it is contagious, it's very powerful, because when you are adding the full power of the divine inside of you to back whoever you're being guided to back, to help somebody do what they cannot do by themselves, and we're all just taking turns and following these callings in a nonlinear way, showing up at just the right place at just the right time to help each other and support each other unconditionally. The synergy that gets created when we're all working together and following our intuitions in that way is profound, because it's not just the power of one being added to another one. It's not 1 and 1 makes 2. It's the power of one, and the power of one creates synergy that activates ascension, that raises vibration, that takes things up in another way, in another level, that creates that overflow where there's always more love, more support, more divine energy spilling over, and you're serving from that overflow. So I want to come back around to the destruction timeline. What is the destruction timeline? What does disclosure look like on the destruction timeline? What it looks like is, first of all, the timeline of our destruction is not necessarily a timeline where we destroy ourselves through warfare, not necessarily a timeline where we destroy ourselves through pollution and a climate crisis. I mean, those are certainly potentials, but the one that I'm more concerned about is the timeline where we actually do achieve a form of artificial unification through becoming integrated with technology and augmented reality, more and more advanced forms of augmented reality that hijack our brains and our consciousness's natural potential to become empathic, telepathic, unified field of consciousness on our own that can transcend time and space. And instead we trade that for a kind of an artificial unity, artificial telepathy, technology that tricks us into thinking that that kind of technology is the key to attaining advanced abilities in consciousness, when nothing could be further from the truth. So that particular timeline is one where we lose our freedom and we end up trading away the Earth's resources because we no longer value the Earth's resources. We no longer even value each other. We are trained to value enhancements in our immersive technology experience. And we begin to participate in trade relationships with civilizations that are happy to trade those kinds of enhancements for the Earth's resources until eventually this world just becomes a barren, lifeless place, and we are eventually abandoned, living inside of our artificial reality, slowly dying out with no path forward, which could easily happen. It might take hundreds of years. We might be made to live in such a reality for as long as it takes for that to play out. And it might seem like we've attained peace, and it might seem like we've even overcome certain kinds of problems in society with the help of civilizations that are leading us down that path. But on that path, disclosure happens in a very specific way where the information about the galactic presence, about extraterrestrials, extraterrestrial technology, is sort of metered out slowly, and just enough fear and obscurity is created to entice people that are always wanting more, and yet scare people that don't really want to know. And we're kind of kept in this place of being fed tidbits that don't really support awakening, but rather string us along with fear, with enticements. And one of the biggest challenges that we're going to see on both timelines, because they are merged, we're overlapping here, and this is what we have to watch out for, this is the discernment that we have to have, is that the big enticement is that we need extraterrestrial technology, and that if we trust in what these secret government programs are doing, because they're doing the work to acquire the technology that we need to save ourselves, that is very dangerous. That concerns me a lot. There are a number of different things going on. There are things going on in our skies that are deceptive. And a lot of that may be, what Dr. Greer has been warning about, alien reproduction vehicles being used to frighten us, to intimidate our pilots, to trick us into thinking that there's an alien threat. There are also, I think, are actual authentic extraterrestrial events that also are playing a role in enticing or mesmerizing people into wanting ET in our skies at a point when it's actually still premature. The galactic beings that I am in touch with, that I communicate with telepathically, that provided a lot of discernment about this issue, what they say is that our true friends, the ones that support human sovereignty, the ones that represent the kind of advanced, spiritually advanced civilization that we have the potential to become, they are watching us from a distance. They are not typically the ones that we are seeing in our skies the most. They stay hidden. They practice non-interference. They only occasionally communicate with open and trusted channels with human beings that are not going to become ungrounded through that kind of contact, or try to take it and run with it in some way that would be misleading or would confuse us. They don't want to confuse anybody. A person who has become discerning, that is grounded, that is in integrity with humanity and the earth, and that extends peace consciousness, universal love, to make connections with the galactic community, yes, you can open your channel and connect with our galactic friends. It's true, it's there. Lots of people do it. And it's worth doing because we are building a bridge for a time when the right timing for more open contact is aligned with humanity becoming spiritually awakened enough and to become whole enough that we're really ready for that. Our true friends don't want to jump the gun. They don't want to come in and start participating in that type of open contact when humanity is not awakened enough yet. And they also recognize that even some of the contacts that are happening that may represent a form of interference, where some civilizations are trying to entice us to want them to be in our airspace, to want them to come closer, to want their technology, and to, in a way, give them permission to get their foot in the door so that they can start to entice us into trade relationships with them that do not serve our highest good, but that they are willing to engage in because they want access to our resources. Even our galactic friends that see that type of thing going on know that even that is playing a role in the awakening. Even that is playing a role in how we evolve our discernment. But when I connect with our most trusted galactic friends, they tell me that they are watching all of this unfold with great interest. They're watching from a distance. They are waiting for humanity to awaken more before they engage us more in the proper way, in a way that's in accordance with galactic law for emerging civilizations. And what they are looking for is not just a change in the way that we relate to the galactic community. They're looking for, have we as a civilization entered into the 1-1 vibration of universal consciousness? The 1-1 vibration is what aligns us with a spirit of wholeness, which is very much present in the world. And that's why I'm going to complete this talk by saying that, again, what is going to get us across the threshold, what is going to ultimately end secrecy, is not only a direct confrontation with secrecy, calling it out and exposing it. That is a part of it. A huge part of how we get there is through the revolution of kindness and oneness and compassion, and showing up for each other unconditionally and following intuitively our calling to show up for each other through random acts of kindness, through deliberate paths of service, and showing up for each other's human needs, showing up for the animals, becoming the stewards of the earth. When we become the stewards of the earth and truly put planet first, and not allow ourselves to get distracted by enticements with extraterrestrial technology, distracted by or mesmerized by lights in the sky. When we're putting Earth first, humanity first, our own animals first, that is what aligns us with the part of the galactic spectrum that is most evolved, most conscious, most integrated with the angelic presence, most reflective of our own true divine potential. And so that has to be balanced. I'm all for supporting the galactic awakening and doing meaningful contact work to strengthen our bridge into that part of the spectrum through a focus of galactic peace, galactic peaceful co-creation. As a channel, I've been practicing a form of CE5 contact for many, many years now without going out to try to see anything in the sky. I'm just doing it all telepathically from the privacy of my own home. So that's why I teach channeling, because to me that is a very important aspect of how we form and strengthen those bridges. So yeah, that's where I think we're at. I think we have to have a balanced approach of not just going after the secrecy, not just exposing the lies and the fear programs, but we also have to really put the animals first, the planet first, put our own fellow human beings first, because when we raise the bar, when we raise to another level of accountability, compassion, and responsiveness to care for each other's human needs and the needs of the planet, that is what mitigates natural disasters. That is what dials down the things that the earth is allowing to happen in the climate crisis to get our attention. It's not entirely a climate crisis in only a meteorological sense, or in a sense of melting ice caps. It is a crisis in consciousness of, are we going to stay in egoic consciousness and selfishness, or are we going to start to move into oneness? We start to move more and more into oneness. That is going to change the reflection of what we see in the world. It's going to start to create balance and harmony in our relationship to the environment in a non-linear way that aligns us with divine manifestation and healing for the planet, that can have a profound effect on the stresses that the planet is under, even without us addressing in a logistical way the problems that the planet is facing, on a point-by-point basis, with where there are imbalances that need to be corrected, some of which are so far out of control that we're not going to be able to solve it logistically. We have to change our consciousness, because that is going to align us with all of the best efforts, best potentials, and the divine manifestation energy that wants to help reset the balance, which can do things for us that just human hands are not able to do. It's going to take both. It's going to take our hands, and it's going to take the divine working through us energetically to reset the balance. But we're at that crisis point now where we have to rise up. So thank you. Thank you, Neil. I know I went a little bit longer than I thought on this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I hope I kind of hammered the main points home. Yeah.
You did. And I just got to thank you, brother, because I would say that, Portal to Ascension is about taking these practical things and bringing the bigger picture into it. And definitely when it comes to UFOs, taking into the bigger picture what's going on with the consciousness, what this really means in the grand scheme of our unity. And we might see all this drama unfolding and all these politicians getting involved in the story, and we can get lost into that. But it's really happening because this is the times that we're in. There's something occurring on the planet, and part of that is going to be surprising to a lot of people, and maybe even unimaginable, the things that have been hidden from us, right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, even to us, like some of the things that they're saying, like they've just scratched the surface, even to people in this community. Some of the things that we hear that are going on, the interactions of different beings, the types of craft that have been reverse engineered, the technologies that have been created, even to some of us in the community, are probably going to be a far reach and kind of mind-blowing. So it's important for us to really understand the bigger perspective. And I really love the 1-1 scenario, because to me, the 1-1 is sharing our oneness with each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not per se, and then not per se relying on someone to complete us, right? Having your own oneness. And the only way we can do that is by supporting our earth. This is what I'm summarizing what you're saying.
Yeah.
Supporting our earth, the animals, the humans, our planet, offering unconditional support. And once we do that within our microcosm, which is really actually a big macro of earth, we can start doing that with other planets and other beings.
Exactly. I look at it from the perspective that, imagine that all these animals in the world were created by different advanced civilizations as representations of themselves on a planet that showcases how all of these civilizations are working together to divinely create environments that show how all these different life forms can be a part of one world, one reality, one environment. And so how we treat the planet itself is going to, bear a reflection of how we relate to the galactic civilizations. You know,
Exactly.
yeah.
All right. So as we close out here, I'll just give it back to you. Any final thoughts? I understand we just got to kind of just keep moving forward, things are unfolding. But how about like some tools? Because when it comes to being at oneness, we get triggered, we get reactory. There's all this craziness in the world, and sometimes it's not easy for us to share our oneness or even feel one within ourselves. So what is like a good starting point, or maybe even a more advanced thing for us to really cultivate so that we can move into that world?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a rise of accountability taking place. And, what that looks like for me personally is that, if I get triggered and I come out of alignment with my highest source, then, I might be going into a wounded place. I might be engaging in projection of something from the past. And so for me, it's about identifying projection and surrendering it, making peace with whatever the original conflict was that created that, and surrendering to it, to the divine, and rising in my accountability to be responsible for the energy I'm putting out. And the tool that I have used consistently, and even lately I've been using it to great effect, is the violet flame. Calling in the energy of the violet flame, asking the violet flame, please show me where I am attached, show me where I'm getting in my own way, show me where I am miscreating with divine power, and help me to let go and surrender whatever is not serving. And I get so many insights and downloads, and at the same time, I can feel that transmuting fire burning up the old energy and helping me to release the old, because my effort is in the right place. So it's a very powerful tool to work with. I could go on and on about it.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. And before we let you go, we close out, please do share with everybody where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel. I am going to be posting more on this topic, so just look me up, Saryon Michael White on YouTube. That's Saryon. And my website is saryon.com. So let's keep the conversation going, because when people like us get together and we generate this kind of conversation, eventually these kinds of views are going to get more into mainstream media. So yes. But we keep having to expand the conversation more and more widely so that can happen eventually.
Yeah. I mean, and this is only just the beginning. The conversation when it comes to what's happening with the government, data disclosures, is only the beginning. And I'm sure when you listen to a lot of what they said and a lot of the questions they had, a lot of things probably came to your heart and mind in order, the elements that you could have contributed to the story. Like why they're showing up at nuclear bases, right? Like and different types of questions that really go into the spiritual realm that they haven't quite touched on yet. Right.
And with the nuclear base thing, I mean, I remember Dr. Greer talking about that, and the way he framed it is they were being showing up both in Russia and here and shutting down those nuclear facilities,
right,
demonstrating that they have the technology to just shut down our nuclear weapons. And they were there to show us that nuclear weapons, not cool. You guys need to get rid of these. That was the message that he took from it, which I think is accurate. And yet it was brought up, it was briefly referenced in the hearings and in some of the things that were said in the media, but that message of oneness was never talked about. Instead, they're like, they can take out our weapons. They're, that's scary. We need to, become more guarded against that.
Right, exactly. I mean, they got to read Dolores Cannon's book where she talks about when the first nuclear weapon went off, there was a call out to the universe and all the volunteers were called into Earth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it's going to go. So I'm excited because it seems that they're open, and it's just going to keep unfolding. So
yeah, the thing that I think is, I'll share one final thing, and I think this is really important because I do think our civilization has probably benefited from extraterrestrial technology, and I do think that there are some ETs that are helping us in a certain way. There was one particular project that I became aware of where it appears as though some civilization was allowing our scientists to study, one of their ships, not through reverse engineering, not us shooting something down and trying to take it apart and figure out how it works. This particular civilization was allowing us to take readings with our instruments up close to understand the energy fields that are being generated, because they figured, like, if we can just observe what we're looking at up close, we're going to be able to, like, have some pretty powerful insights, and that's enough. They don't need to actually hand over any technologies. They just need to let us observe up close what they have, because it's going to start to lead some of our scientists in the right direction. So I think that there may be things going on like that are beneficial and supportive and aligned with a higher potential. But we have to be very careful with this idea that technology in any form is somehow good for us, because there are a lot of technologies that could easily take us down a path that would specifically be limiting to our potential, what we have the potential to become. And we could end up becoming like, a extraterrestrial civilization, but not the type that we were meant to become. So we have to be very careful that, not being enticed by ET technology, not thinking that it's okay what these secret government programs are doing to try to go after that. Yeah. The idea that that's just across the board somehow going to benefit us, or that we need to get access to it in any way possible, because it's like it's a threat, and we need to, like, get a hold of it so we can know what we're dealing with. No, we don't need that.
We have our own trajectory as humanity.
Absolutely.
We are advanced beings. I feel eventually we're going to be using our merkabas to transfer, to go to different realities and worlds. We don't need a spacecraft,
Yeah, consciousness. I mean, there's a lot that we could do with consciousness. If there were really no challenge in terms of secrecy or anything nefarious, from human agendas, or even any type of extraterrestrial agenda that was, interfering in some way, then what would happen is we would have advanced civilizations observing us, waiting until we've awakened into the galactic spectrum, and then coming in and introducing themselves and saying, hey, welcome to the neighborhood, not doing it prematurely. What we're experiencing right now, there is contact that has happened that is, by some standard, premature. We're dealing with a wide range of things. Some of it is helping our awakening. Some of it is trying to lead us down a very specific technological path that is not in our highest interest, but it's also part of a test of discernment. I mean, ultimately, it is all part of the plan, so we just have to be very, very vigilant and very aware.
Exactly. And we could go on forever, because every time you say something, I have something to say back to it. We can keep going.
Yeah.
I feel we'll continue the conversation. I'm liking this series, and let's keep it going. Maybe every few weeks.
I think something a little more regular while these things are rolling out, especially because we have hearings coming up again in September. I'd love to be, like, if there's any kind of a roundtable and we can do something.
Let's do it. Maybe we can do some, bring some people on and host it as well, and have discussions, with other people. You do your presentation and then just get on this. But you and me can host as well and ask questions to other people, whistleblowers in the community, things like that. If you're down for something like that.
Yeah. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yep. Brother Saryon, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Thank you. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension, here with Saryon Michael White. And this is amazing times. We're in incredible times. And, we've been saying that for quite some time, but things are rapidly unfolding. We're in a crossroads right now. There's a huge shift that can occur on this planet. The entire paradigm can change, and it's up to us to decide what path we take. So here on Portal to Ascension, we're just going to continue pumping out consciousness and really taking it back to the inner work, because ultimately, how can we be the caretakers of new technology, new planet, unless we've taken care of ourselves and each other? And that's what it's all about. So love you all so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.